Hi there, this is Corey.
This is Scott.
And this is Dave.
This is unalphabetically the musical shenanigans. It was going to be alphabetically, but you threw it off.
We're going to do it numerically now.
You're supposed to tell us that before we start.
Yeah,
I did. I said I would go, and then you. It doesn't matter.
Whatever.
We're still talking about the Rolling Stone Top 500. We've got 5 albums to cover this week, and right from the top, Frank Sinatra in the wee small hours.
I'll jump in. I'm expecting to get a lot of grief over this, but I actually like Sinatra. And frankly, I don't think there's any better Sinatra than Melancholy Sinatra, I think, which is part of the reason I like this album. This is, a lot of people consider this to actually be the first concept album. Because all of the songs, even though they were songs that already existed, they all kind of revolve around this common theme of like broken relationships and loneliness and depression. And Sinatra laid out the songs so they sort of naturally flow into one another and tell a story, even though they were already existing songs.
Right under the title, I put in parentheses, the man's breakup album.
I got to be honest. A lot of the songs made me want to be drunk. You know, if you're not drinking and listening to this, you're probably not getting the full impact of the song. It also kind of made me want to punch somebody, possibly either in the nads, the throat, the eye.
Mood Indigo had a feel of a Hank Williams, I'm so lonesome I could cry. And I had to look it up. The Hank Williams came out in 49.
Yeah.
Nothing brings you down quite like it.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. Country, old school country certainly has that methodology going for it. But I kind of hate Frank's voice to begin with. That's just that, hey, I'm here and I'm doing Vegas and I'm a lounge lizard motherfucker. Oh, man, please just strap him to a rocket, shoot him into the fucking sun and be done with it.
Dude, I grew up listening to Frank, and I have to tell you, and I watched the documentary and how he approaches songs and how he sings different lines. And
total perfectionist. I understand, Scott, what you're saying about sort of the stereotypical lounge lizard voice, but like, you got to bear in mind, when he came out, nobody was doing that at the time.
That's true. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. As we said earlier, who the hell put this list together? Because as you pointed out, Dave, every Kanye West album was on this list.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something's not right here. I did listen to it, and honestly, it hurt me. So, you know, I feel a little bit scarred having gone through that now. And it's like between wanting to, you know, just punch someone right in the anus.
You keep moving farther back.
you do.
Yeah, well,
But strapping him to a rocket, that's pretty damn funny.
he deserves it. Him and Jewel.
To kind of contextualize this, though, I mean, you say he deserves it, but like, I think you got to bear in mind too that a lot of this sort of like depressing, melancholy thing, it's a direct outgrowth of where he was in his life at that point. His wife divorces him. He runs off into the arms of Ava Gardner, who he'd been having an affair with behind his wife's back. They get married 10 days after his first divorce, but she turns around and leaves him too. There's a report out there that he even attempted suicide at a certain point before this album was made. So, I mean, he was in a dark place when this came out.
And this album actually regenerated his career. I believe Frank belongs in the top 500. I think he's a good representation of this style of music and deserves to be there.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say no. Just, it was painful.
Next on our list, Boogie Down Productions, Criminal Minded. Scott, you got anything positive here?
Oh, yeah. No. These guys are great, actually. I was very surprised because I'd never listened to this. I'd never heard it. So I went in and was like, okay, let's hear it. Poetry. Damn, that's a lot of standout tracks for me were 9mm Go Bang. That was awesome. And Poetry. Those two really just stood out. And really the whole album is cool.
Yeah, it was kind of funny that, like, I mean, at the end of last week's show, we were all just sort of laughing about how is this even on the list when none of us have ever heard of it. But I agree with Scott. I kind of loved listening to this, honestly.
It was cool. It was really cool.
It was solid, beginning to end.
Yeah.
I mean, I could definitely feel the influence for Paul's Boutique. And it seems like there was a showdown between the Bronx and Queens hip-hop.
Oh, really?
They mention it frequently throughout the song that the hip-hop originates in the Bronx, not in Queens, and yet Run DMC is Queens.
I knew there was a lot of rivalry in the early days, especially in New York, with the hip-hop scene, the metal scene. Oh, the metal scene especially, too.
And both, comparatively to Run DMC, I mean, I don't have the vocabulary to really pinpoint it, but there is a difference between the two. But I couldn't quite put my finger on it. But you could hear there was just a slight different style to what they're doing, I guess, in the Bronx to what was being done in Queens.
Well, in one of the tracks, Dope Beat, I made a note that, last week we talked about Run DMC, and specifically we talked about the My Adidas song. In that Dope Beat song, at one point, he actually says, I don't wear Adidas because my name ain't Run.
Not segueing to another album today, but they do sample Back in Black.
Yep. I'm pretty sure there was another song, Success is the Word, that opens with a cash register, and I'm pretty sure it's the exact same cash register sound effect that Pink Floyd used on Money.
Nice.
Overall, I'm going to say yes, this belongs in the top 500.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, I agree, but I want to add something else, Corey. You mentioned the difference there between Run DMC. It's like I feel they're almost a little bit more lyrical than Run DMC was. Run DMC was a little bit more disjointed with their word choice. They didn't necessarily try to...
They were focused more on the rhyme than the message.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And I think KRS-One has like a little better command of the language too. Like his rhymes go on these extended rants where he can just sort of freestyle for a while.
It was a brilliant album. It really was.
And maybe that is the definitive difference between the Queens and the Bronx.
Maybe so.
One is more the rhythm and the rhyming, and this one is more the message.
Yeah, the message here was solid, and you got it. And if you didn't, you're a fucking idiot.
Now it's time for Continuum by John Mayer. I'll start. I didn't hate it. I felt it was very milquetoast. Everything just kind of flowed along. It felt like something that I've heard before.
Yep.
I wrote, it feels about as white as Bridgeport, Connecticut. Okay, that's where he's born. That's the joke. And it also sounded like something Ben Harper had done 10 years before this, and then find out Ben Harper played on this album.
Very, very, very Ben Harper.
I didn't dislike it. I thought some of his guitar playing was amazing. He definitely has some Hendrix bits in there.
Well, one of the songs, he covered Bold as Love by Hendrix and did a phenomenal job with it, with the guitar piece on that.
Yeah, Homeboy can play. I didn't hate it either. Slow Dancing in a Burning Room is just the standout track for me. The rest...
The slow dancing one, when I heard the chorus, all I could hear was Heart of Gold by Neil Young.
I like Mayer's playing. I love his playing.
He's kind of a middling songwriter, but he's a hell of a player.
Yes, what you said. It's like, I get why people are crazy about him. I get it, but I don't. I just can't jump on that boat.
So the interesting story about John Mayer, two things actually. Number one, he first wanted to pick up the guitar after watching Marty McFly in Back to the Future.
Wow.
Where he did the whole Chuck Berry bit. And so at 13 years old, his father goes out, gets him a guitar, and he proceeds to get so obsessed with playing and practicing this thing all the time that his parents twice took him to a psychiatrist to see if something was wrong with him, because the kid could not put the guitar down.
I can find a little respect on that.
Yeah, maybe there is something wrong with him. Just saying. Maybe there is.
He's a good guitar player, but I don't feel he's a top 500. There's nothing that inspires or groundbreaking or worthwhile to hear this album before you die.
Yeah, I didn't feel like that had to be there.
Yeah, I can buy that. I think the only reason he's here is that 500 is a long list.
House hunting got you down? Not finding anything affordable? At Buford Second Chance Realty, we got you covered. We specialize in homes that have been given bad reputations for circumstances well beyond their control.
Some rather horrible things happened here.
The house did not commit the crime.
I don't know.
But look at this large walk-in closet.
This is so perfect. I can fit all my shoes in here, and we didn't even know these people.
Buford Second Chance Realty, we got you covered.
I love my murder house.
Okay, let's move on to the fun one.
Okay.
AC/DC.
Woo!
Back in Black. Scott, you go.
Oh, what's not to like about that album? It's 4 chords all the way through, and they're the most amazing 4 chords you've ever heard in your life, and they're going to repeat that for the next 30 years, and they're going to make a shit ton of money.
'Twas 1980 and Bon Scott was dead. Brian Johnson, drafted from Geordie, took his stead. For his breakout album for Brian Johnson,
Yeah.
it was solid.
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, the opener, Hell's Bells, come on. Dong.
They actually had that bell custom made for that song.
I know, and that was so cool.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Because they wanted it to be exactly the right pitch to work with the song. So you got to pick. So you got to pick one: Bon Scott or Brian Johnson.
Bon Scott.
Really?
Yeah, really.
That's interesting. I'm more of a Brian Johnson guy.
I'm a Bon Scott.
I love the older stuff, but I think Brian Johnson really brought something different to the band.
He brought the sanity to the band.
As one critic apparently put it, Brian Johnson sings like there's a cattle prod at his scrotum.
There you go. Yes.
I mean, where else are we going to get lyrics like, let me cut your cake with my knife?
That is a deep line, my friend.
This was, pure sexual innuendo, unlike what we have
Gee, you
today, where it's
think?
just out there.
Well, that's
I
true.
can't. I guess for me the reason it's Brian Johnson is because I just to this day I can't think AC/DC without just immediately hearing that like sort of high pitched screamy sound that he's got.
That's true.
For those about to rock,
We salute you! Fire! Produced by Robert John Mutt Lang.
Oh, Matt Lang.
ex Mr. Shania Twain.
Exactly. I mean, started with I looked them up. Boomtown Rats.
Yeah.
I mentioned the Outlaws because they're from Tampa.
Yeah.
He did Highway to Hell. He did Foreigner 4.
Yeah.
He did most of the Def Leppard albums. And then you can start to see the slide that Bryan Adams Waking Up the Neighbors, which sounds like the Def Leppard album. And then Shania Twain, which sounds like a Def Leppard album. And then at 2008 is where he hits rock bottom. Nickelback. And he did Highway to Hell with them. Yeah, I think he did a couple others. There has to be representation of them in the top 500. And I think that there should have also been a Bon Scott album in the top 500. This is the only entry they have.
I think.
Is it really?
Highway to Hell should have been in there then.
No, I mean I guess I think there's probably two reasons this one's in here. I think one is just that the fact that they came out not only with an album this strong, but an album this strong after their lead singer dies. It's kind of remarkable that the band didn't just end right there. You know what I mean?
That's true.
But then to not only come out and make a new album with a new singer, but to come out and make a new album with a new singer that is this huge. I mean, half of this album turned into radio singles. It's amazing. I did enjoy reading that after Bon Scott died of alcohol poisoning, the official coroner's report ruled it as death by misadventure, which is like the most British thing I've ever read in my life.
Oh, the poor chap died death by misadventure. Oh, poor lad. Oh, well.
Like he was chasing down a pickpocket in Victorian London.
Wait, aren't they Australian though?
They are.
Yes, but he was in London when he died.
That would make sense. All right, finally.
Oh, wait, so did we all say yes on that?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, I think the only thing we're arguing is whether they should have other albums in addition to this one.
Right, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and they should.
I think that, even though they play the same 3 to 5 chords, they're still timeless.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep, agreed.
They're one of the few bands that does that.
Fleetwood Mac, Rumors. Uh-oh. Go ahead, Scott.
Oh, no. I just... it's a beautiful album. I mean, from start to finish. And considering how coked out they all were and how strange they were as a band, and reading about that time in their recording, Fleetwood wanted to do it in the studio and insisted they all get there. None of them wanted to do that. They all had McVie and Nix were living like in another place, and it was weird. And they're all just coked out of their minds, and they made this amazing record.
A guy apparently who was working in the studio at the time, actually, I read a quote. He said, I'll read it to you directly the way he said it. The band would come in at 7 at night, have a big feast, party till 1 or 2 in the morning, and then when they were so whacked out they couldn't do anything, they'd start recording.
Well, anyways, I read the book. It's called Get Tusked. And it's about the making of Tusk. Now, they refer back to Rumors and just the amount of coke and the amount of drugs that they were doing. Amazing. This album, like you said, they were at each other's throats. You had 2 couples, one getting divorced, Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham, their volatile relationship.
They were never, after they divorced, they
never married.
No, they didn't, did they?
No. What's amazing is how much, and I read this in the Get Tusked book, Stevie brings in something, and Lindsey still gives like 100% of himself to make that song work. Even though he knows she is taking a shot at him directly. He just sees the bigger picture. That guy, what he hears in his head to what he puts out on these tracks is amazing.
His guitar playing is second to none on that album.
Yeah.
You can't compete with that. That was some badass playing.
The Chain, I will say, is a perfect song.
Yep.
If there could ever be, if there is a song that I can name as a perfect song, it's that one.
Yes.
Everything about that song just works.
Yes. Agreed. And honestly, a lot of those songs really.
I'm looking at the list. Just about every song on here has had airplay.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Secondhand News.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Dreams. Absolutely. Never Going Back Again. Not as much, but yes. Don't Stop, obviously. Go Your Own Way.
Oh, yeah.
Songbird. Then The Chain. You Make Loving Fun.
Yeah.
I Don't Want to Know. Oh Daddy, and Gold Dust Woman. I think every single one of them has had radio play.
As you're reading those out, I'm thinking of Scott's comment about, the tension between, Buckingham and Nix, but that's the whole album is them, just their personal relationships. You Make Lovin' Fun was Christine McVie singing about her boyfriend that she started dating after she left John McVie.
Yeah, who I think was a lighting director.
Yeah, so translation, you make loving fun because that guy sucked.
But he's playing bass on the album.
Yeah.
Go Your Own Way. Now, and it's on Netflix, Echoes in the Canyon. The Mamas and the Papas. John Phillips wrote a song, Go Where You Want to Go. It was about Michelle Phillips cheating on him. It wasn't another band member. I mean, it'd be like, it was probably the drummer she slept with or the bass player. Nope. It was the songwriter.
Nice.
Where does he fall on the hierarchical chain?
Yeah, it's just amazing that they could put that stuff aside and come together to work on these songs, knowing that they're really just all taking these veiled swipes at one another.
Right.
And doing background vocals on it, knowing that, Lindsay clearly knows he's singing about himself.
It's such an autobiographical album in a lot of ways. Like, you were honest, I'll give you that.
So it absolutely deserves top 500.
Oh, yeah.
And it's in the top 10. I would state it belongs there.
I totally agree. Unrelated to the album, one thing I learned that I did not know. Were you guys aware in the mid-'70s of the fake Fleetwood Mac?
No.
Okay. As Fleetwood Mac is all sniping at each other, they're out on the road. They were partway through a tour. They had a particularly bad show. They walk off stage. I think it was Mick Fleetwood tells their manager at the time, we're done. It's over. Cancel the rest of the shows. We're not doing this anymore. The manager basically says, screw you. You're not going to screw me over. He goes out, puts out ads, and hires all new musicians, tells them he's doing it on Mick Fleetwood's behalf, when in fact Mick Fleetwood knew nothing about any of this. Hires all new musicians and says, you guys are going to tour as, quote, the new Fleetwood Mac. And he sends them out on tour under that name without the knowledge or permission of anybody in the band. And it actually worked for a while. You could be a huge fan of a band and have no idea what they look like, number one.
That's true.
And number two, we're talking the time before big video screens. So if you were any farther back than the fifth row, you couldn't see anybody until finally the word got out that this was totally unauthorized, and then fans started showing up and booing and throwing things, and it all fell apart. It's just talk about a bizarre story. Like literally, your manager gets pissed off, so he goes out and hires another band to play under your name.
House hunting got you down? Not finding anything affordable? At Buford Second Chance Realty, we got you covered.
The basement is spacious, but what is with the door in the floor?
Well, that's a portal to hell. Satan lives down there.
Hey, come on, let me out. Come on, we can play Parcheesi.
I assure you, do not let him out, because within 48 hours, all hell will, you know.
I promise, I swear, right? No world domination, not this time. Trust me, come on.
Do not be beguiled by his wiles. Put a throw rug over that door and don't even think about it.
Come on, we'll make cookies. I got chocolate.
And if it does get out, play the Nickelback. That will scare him off. Buford Second Chance Realty, we got you covered.
Cookies.
One last thing from last week when I was talking about Al Green and his other albums should have been in the top 500 and not his greatest hits. Well, lo and behold, there were two albums that were in the top 500. One called I'm Still in Love with You and the other called Call Me. 5 from those tracks were on the greatest hits, and there were 10 tracks on the greatest hits. So half of the greatest hits are on 2 other albums in the top 500.
Okay.
So I call bullshit.
Yeah, I think I defended it last week, but that you're making a good point.
Next week, as we've discussed, I wanted to talk about the artists that have 5 or more albums in the top 500.
Oh, absolutely.
There's 8 of them, so we're going to have to do 4. Somebody pick an album they want to talk about from them. The next time, the Beatles, Neil Young, Bowie, and Kanye. That leaves for the next time Bob Dylan, Rolling Stones, Bruce Springsteen, and Led Zeppelin.
We're going to talk about the artists as a whole, but everybody come and name the one album that you think is most deserving of being on the list.
Okay.
Okay, I think this is a good place to stop recording.
Fair enough.
And that's likely going to get cut. So, hey, thank you all. This was great. Hey, Scott, what show number is this?
Dong, dong, dong.
Right, 3. Thanks.
Nice.